Bill's not here. If Daniel doesn't show up, everybody has already heard the presentation. So we still need to go through it for the record. Yours.
Okay, it's 10:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the April 25th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the town of Montreat. Let's have a moment of silence first. Amen. The agenda is before you. Let's have, first of all, a motion to adopt the agenda, if someone would like to make that motion.
So move.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. It's approved. The next thing on the agenda is the adoption of the January 18th, 2024 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Which one on January 18th? I'm sorry.
January 18th, yes.
I had a surprise. I have a couple of very minor changes. On the third page, near the end of the paragraph that ends at the top, it's the fourth line from the bottom. The line begins with "was in attendance." We're going back further. It says Commissioner Jane Alexander, who was in attendance, advised that the reason the traffic study grant was turned was, I think it should be turned down. So insert the word down before was, because the continuing on $20,000 costs seem to be out of line with the short amount of road on Assembly Drive to study. Next sentence, Ms. DeCristina suggested including a mention a traffic, I think it should be a mention of a traffic study, to insert the word of. That's all I have. I told you it was minor.
Dan, I'm trying to keep up with you. On the oath of office on the first page, Julie needs an E on her name.
Well, or delete the S.
What was that?
It's got Julie's
The
name
first
is misspelled.
page, just Julie's name needs an E.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then on page 2, the bottom paragraph, it'll be the second line, Ms. Christina suggested that Chair Shu take objective 5, since it is about short-term rentals, which his wife expressed.
Good for
And
you.
that is the
Good
extent of
for
my
you.
grammatical credentials.
Boy, Mason left and we picked up another one.
Good for you, Liz. Good job.
My mother was an English teacher.
Are there any other suggestions for amendments to those minutes? Let's formally move and second those.
I move that we accept the minutes from January 18th meeting as we have just corrected them.
Is there a second? Mr.
Second.
Dean? Oh, heck, I thought Mr. Dean should have
did
that
you?
privilege.
Oh, yeah.
Julie Shell seconds. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the March, or February, I guess it is. Yeah. What now? Daniel just emailed me back saying he cannot make it. He had some other calls or some sort. Okay, the minutes of February 18th. Would someone, first of all, like to move their approval to get it started?
I move that we approve the minutes from the February 14th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion, any proposed amendments?
You know, I should have mentioned this to Angie beforehand, and this is very minor, and I know how critically important it is. Y'all have drilled it into us, and I'm doing my best to speak right in this microphone. I thought you were shutting me down. How critically important it is that we speak into the microphone, and I'm all for that. And the only thing I was going to suggest, maybe in these minutes, it appears the three people spoke at that public hearing. I well remember it, and Mr. Blake did, Gene Norris, and Mary Standard. And the way we worded it, it says that Mason failed to use the microphone. I think he was standing there at the microphone, but I think the microphone was not cut on. We now know.
Actually, there are bits and pieces of Mason, but not enough to put the words together.
So you think the microphone was on,
I think it was on for Mason.
but not on for the other two?
For Mary and Jean, I couldn't hear anything.
So it must not have been turned on. Okay, I just assumed that it was probably off for all three of them. And I was just gonna say, to make it just consistent, and rather than say they didn't turn it on, because that implies they had to, it was their fault that they didn't turn it on, just to say the microphone was not on and therefore it was unintelligible for all three of them. That's my suggestion. I don't know if everybody else agrees or disagrees. Minor, but,
Are there any?
and I wanted to use that as an opportunity to emphasize all of us again, but Kayla's already done it, that we need to speak in the microphone, because I did listen to some of it, and if we don't speak into it, Angie cannot hear it. I'm all for that.
Are there any additional suggestions? Let's see, let's get a motion to approve the amendment.
I also move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I did.
And Alan did the second. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now, all in favor of adopting the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries and the minutes as amended are adopted. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is subcommittee updates. First, the Hillside Development Subcommittee, which I think met earlier this week.
We did. Kayla, do you have anything before I just do a tiny?
I believe that we were going to appoint Daniel Hewitt For
Yeah, that was the-
Hillside?
That was the sign, I think.
Is that to sign? I thought we were appointing somebody to Hillside. Or am I,
We talked at the last sign, when we didn't have the quorum, we just informally discussed that maybe if we added another member, we wouldn't have it, be less likely to have a quorum problem. And we talked about, and Daniel was there at that meeting.
oh, it was, that. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, I don't know, just ignore that. You've had too many meetings lately. Yeah.
Dan, is that your recollection?
Well, that was a sign. I was just saying maybe that's what she was
Yeah.
confusing.
That's what I
with.
mean.
We talked about sign possibly appointing Daniel, but I don't know anything about
Well,
Hillside
and
Development.
and I see in January's minutes that it says there's the vacant chair position on Hillside, but Liz is serving as chair. So I think,
Yeah, we took care of that
yeah.
meeting
I
before
must not
last.
have taken it.
Confirm that, is that right?
Yeah, I
Do
think
we
we
need to
need to
confirm
confirm
it?
that, yes.
Let's take that out of order then, right now, while we're thinking about
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
And that would, the motion, as I understand it, is to
To
add to Hillside.
nominate Liz as the chairperson of Hillside.
I can't hear you.
We did that within the Hillside Development. Right. Because you're secretary now.
Can you appoint your own?
I think so. I mean, that's what we've done so far.
Yeah, I think-
So, yeah, I think just, I'm
We're okay.
sorry, that may have been something else, but I think Dan's right. I know that we talked about someone else coming on to signs.
Okay.
So, yeah, just strike that.
Okay.
But there's nothing we have
So
to do
The
then.
update for Hillside is I'm going to chair, Bill is the secretary, and then Alan Crawford is on our committee too. So enjoy working with them very much. We are meeting monthly. We just met yesterday. We are continuing an ongoing work of going through a review of the Hillside Development ordinances. We've completed the purpose, the approved graded area, and development intensity ratio. Yesterday, in our next meeting in June, we'll do the development density ratio. We're exploring other things that are done in other communities, and we even have some footwork to do. Our members are going to explore the hillside properties in Montreat. Those are greater than 40% slope, and find out in certain areas if they actually have people living on them, if they're owned. Kayla's helping us do some investigative work on that. We'll be meeting monthly into the fall. And do you have anything to add, Kayla?
Do you want me to share the dates of the meetings?
That would be great. Yeah, we would love for you all to come too.
So June 5th, 2024, 9 to 10, July 11th, 9 to 10, August 14th, 9 to 10, and then September 25th, 9 to 10. And those are subject to change, but that is what we've got right now.
So,
Which Bill is the secretary, Bill Shire?
So, yeah.
Only because I was there and he wasn't.
Yeah, that is true.
Could I ask a question about
Yes, sir.
Liz, to Liz? You were talking about y'all are working on it. I don't understand a lot of what you're doing, and I'm impressed, and I thank you for doing it, the technical stuff especially. But you said something about density and so forth. Does that tie in with this objective number 2 under development in the comprehensive plan, where it talks about maximum lot coverage? That's not connected, okay? That's all I wanted to know.
Nope.
Anything else, Liz?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I would say thank you to the signage committee. I really appreciate the work that you all have done and what you presented today in your meeting. It was very, very interesting. You've done a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you. And what Liz alluded to is in that members are going to look at various parts of Montreat. We've taken assignments at particular streets, and we're going to identify through the GIS at Buncombe County what the current status of that particular lot is. So it'll be interesting to find that out. Okay, next is the sign ordinance committee.
Yeah, I'm pleased to announce that the Montreat Sign Ordinance Subcommittee has completed their assignment, and it will be coming forth in our July meeting for your consideration. And I would like for Dan to go over the highlights of that, if you would, please.
Thank you, John. What the sign committee has approved, and I'll present now very quickly, and it'll be up for your consideration and approval, hopefully, or disapproval, but whatever you decide to do at the next meeting, hopefully you'll approve it. The changes will be as follows, and I'll just go quickly through the changes, and hopefully you've got a copy of this in front of you. In the definition section, definition for flag has been inserted. I won't take time to read it, but it's a detailed description of flag. And then also in the definition section, for the definition of sign, at the very end of that sentence, it previously read, this definition shall not include the flag, badge, or insignia of any governmental unit. We have deleted that sentence and replaced it with the following sentence: signs shall include flags and banners. Those are two changes we're proposing for the definition section. Then
Dan, we
yes.
also added a definition for banner.
I think that was previously approved. It's not in
Oh,
highlighted yellow.
I thought we were going over everything.
Well, I think I'm only going on the ones in yellow that we have not finally approved here. Have all,
Well, we approved the ones in yellow from the 11th at the sign subcommittee meeting today. But I thought we were going to go.
I was just reviewing those in yellow. Are you saying the ones that are in red have not been approved by P and Z? I can't remember myself now.
No, I don't, this has never come before. These have not come before planning and zoning before. So I think we should go through all of them because this is what will be the text amendment, this whole thing.
And I think the next thing is signs other temporary that we put in there. Is there anything
Well,
we've overlooked
wait.
so far?
But what he's saying
Wait.
is we also, she's saying we also approve. So what she's saying is, I was only reading the yellow ones. We need to do the yellow and the red.
Yeah, planning and
Okay,
zoning
all right.
has not seen this
I
yet.
follow you.
And
I'm with you.
this will be the full text amendment that we
Okay.
will be submitting potentially an application for at the July Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Okay, my mistake. I was
That's
just
all
doing
right.
the most recent change. So,
Yep, that's all right.
so backing up, the only other change would be we also inserted the definition for banner in addition to the definition for flags. And also, hold on.
That's where I took us over. We were at,
Yeah, and
then
then we
take it
also,
to signs other
then we also
temporary.
had a definition for other temporary sign, but it's listed as sign, comma, other temporary, because we thought people would look under the S's for sign. So that would also be a definitional change as well. So those would be the only changes in the definition section. Then going to Article 8, signage section itself. Section 800, we deleted the word reason in the second line. 801.3, we changed deleted pole-mounted banners so that it just reads banners with a capital B. Changed the word political in the fifth line to election. Changed the time for removal of a sign from 2 to 5 days. And at the very end of section 801.3, changed section 810 to corrected it to be 801.9. In section 801.6,
Could I go back to,
yes,
where was it? I think it was under 801.3. No, 800,
Yeah.
purpose.
deleted the word reason.
I think you need to take out the comma also. I'm being Deanish now.
Oh, after reason.
After reason.
Oh, the comma, I assumed it came with it. I see what you mean. Yep. Good catch, Mr. Shy. Trained you guys well. Y'all learned well. Now, where was it? 801.6, I think, is where we were. Change the word freestanding to ground mounted. 801.9, first line, change the word constructed to erected. added after effective date in the second line, which does not comply with this ordinance. Third line, change non-conforming to non-compliant. And then it says shall be subject to the, and after that, added the words provisions of section 305, 306, 307 of this ordinance, period. There should not be a comma after sections, by the way. Before 305. You with me, Kayla?
There should also not be a comma after 306.
801.9. Sections.
And no comma after 306, right following that. Is the end.
The Oxford comma. There's debate about that, as you know. That's debatable, yeah, that's right. And then then after the period, after 307 of this ordinance, period, the rest of section 801.9 would be deleted. 802.2, title signs and street right-of-way. In the first line, freestanding be changed to ground-mounted. We can discuss this when it comes up. I've actually debated whether we even need ground-mounted. It probably should just say any sign. I can't imagine where else it would be other than ground-mounted. I can't mount it to the sky, but I guess I make that one hanging from a limb of a tree or something. But any sign, I think it should just read any sign.
Do we want to take that up right now so we get that done? Will you move that? We'll just add that to the changes.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Any objection to that? Okay. Thank you.
And then continuing on, after street right away in the second line, insert except that one house, one, and then it reads behind house number and nameplate shall be missing on each dwelling, comma, subject to 802.1, period. 802.6, change the word device to devices. 802.7, first line after utility poles and insert except as permitted in section 807 in parentheses.
And didn't we have a parentheses on either side of that? Because it just applies to poles.
I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
After poles, where you've inserted except as permitted in section 807.
Yes,
I thought we put in a parentheses at the front and back of that.
I have it in mind.
Okay, yeah, okay, but you didn't read that.
Oh, I thought I did, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
good.
fine. Okay.
And then near the end of that section, insert the word section in front of 805.25. Continuing on where it says meeting the requirements of, insert sections 804.6 and 804.7. 803.4, delete approximately 5. And mine looks like the E was not deleted. Yeah, it should delete the E of 5 as well. Change permitted to exempt. Capitalize the word sign in 2 places, and then at the end of the sentence, change zoning administrator to town. 804.4, delete at the end of the sentence the words and prior to occupancy. 804.62, I think it's inserting a period there. 804.8, change the word political to election, so it reads election signs in the caption and in the first sentence. Change, insert in third line, no more than prior to 60 days. Fourth line, delete the 2 words and on. The date of election, delete or referendum, and shall be removed, change 1 day to 5 days after the said election, delete or referendum. Change political to election in 2 places in that paragraph. 804.9, change the caption to other temporary signs. Then the paragraph would read, signs meeting the definition of other temporary sign may be displayed, but only in accordance with the following requirements. Delete the other words that were in between there earlier. 804.91, change it to read, such signs shall be no larger than 4 square feet of surface area per side and shall not exceed 3 feet in height, semicolon, add a semicolon at the end of 804.92, 804.93, such signs shall be placed no earlier than 15 days before the event, if any, to which they refer, semicolon.
Did we add semicolons or change it to periods?
There are periods, you're correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie. Period at the end of each of those subsections. Delete the 804.94, the extraneous one out there. 804.94, change 2 days to 5 days. Insert if any to which they refer, period. Delete that last sentence beginning with signs shall be limited. 804.95 is a new section. Only one such sign shall be allowed per lot frontage. Where a parcel has frontage on more than one road, one such sign shall be allowed for each road. 804.96, such signs must be promptly removed if they become torn, tattered, or otherwise deteriorated. 804.97, such signs may only be placed with the consent of the property owner. 804.98, elimination of such signs is prohibited. New section 804.10, flags, reads as follows: flags shall, with permission of the property owner, be allowed on private property in accordance with the following provisions: 804.101, no flag shall exceed 24 square feet in surface area. 804.102, flags must otherwise comply with sections 801 and 802 of this ordinance. A new section 804.11, but it's not really a new section, it's a newly located section. This section 80 recreational signs is located later in the section article where we deleted it, so I'm not going to read it up because it's the exact wording that it was before. It's just placing it in a different location. 805.12, it said previously one ground sign, it now says one ground mounted sign. 805.13, freestanding change to ground mounted. 805.21, captions change from freestanding sign to ground mounted sign, and then once in the section itself, the word ground is changed to ground mounted. 805.23, two places freestanding is changed to ground mounted. Same in 805.24, one place freestanding changed to ground mounted, just to make it consistent throughout the article. 805.26, again, changing freestanding to ground mounted. 805.27 is a new section entitled banners. Reads as follows: banners may be permitted, but only in accordance with the following provisions. 805.27.1, one banner per lot frontage shall be allowed no more than 2 times per calendar year for a maximum duration of 30 days each time. Where a parcel has frontage on more than one road, one banner shall be allowed for each road. 805.27.2, no banner shall exceed 165 square feet. 805.27.3, banners must be attached to the wall of a principal building or securely anchored in a landscaped area outside of the street right-of-way. No loose, non-secure attachments are allowed. Delete section 806, delete former section 806, temporary signs allowed in all zoning districts. And recreational signs was the one that we relocated above, so it's deleted in this location. There's some renumbering of some sections to follow, just to make them consistent with what's above, but no substantive changes. The next substantive change is in 809.3, where we deleted the section.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
About what it looks to me like 806. And then right under that, it says 808.1.
Well, and it's changed 807.1, and we've talked, some of the numbers will need to be redone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Worry about the renumbering. I will fix that with
Okay.
formatting.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to deal with substantive, that was assuming the number, but good, but they do need to be corrected. You're exactly right. So after the deletion of that removal of non-conforming signs, following 809.3, I think that is it.
Okay.
And that's just for this committee to consider, but would not be able to adopt it until
Right.
next meeting.
So that comes from a committee. Would the
Subcommittee.
chair of the committee like to just move that we consider it, and then we can defer it to the July meeting?
So really quick, I want to make sure that I got the changes that planning and zoning that we've made here. And then what I think what Bill is saying is that, John, you'll make the motion for PZC to consider these amendments, consider the sign committee, the amended amendments at the July meeting. So then we'll make a vote on that and the application. So really quick.
say revised amendments.
Yes. Let me just make sure I've got these. So I've got 801.9, there's some commas that need to be removed. 802.2, remove ground mounted in the first line. And then like 803.4, catch that other E in there. I think that was it, right? Other than the making sure the numbers are right.
You're talking about the changes to the changes that we just made.
Yep.
That was all of that E.
E, the commas,
And the sign.
and the numbering, right? Which I just can't control Microsoft Word, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
So my understanding is at the July P and Z meeting, after we've had time to read through this, if we have any questions or anything, we'll be able to do that then.
We'll formally consider an approval of that.
Okay, and then
Right.
there'll be the public
That will
announcement.
be,
et
yeah,
cetera.
that will be this will be in the packet along with the draft application. And then you guys at that meeting will say, these are what Planning and Zoning Commission is recommending to Board of Commissioners.
And so if you would move on behalf of the committee, that these be considered by the commission.
And, well, after the committee has to, planning and zoning has to approve it next month, in July. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah. So the subcommittee, signage subcommittee recommends the approval of the amended report on signage and to be reviewed for consideration at our July meeting of the planning and zoning.
Thank you, sir. That comes from a committee, so it doesn't require a second.
I'll second.
Doesn't require one.
I will not second.
Okay, anything else from the Sign Ordinance Committee?
Yes, I want to thank the members of our committee for their due diligence in putting this together.
Thank you. We're glad you're back healthy.
Yeah, right
Thank you.
back at you.
Okay, next is the Zoning Ordinance Amendments Research Committee. Sally? Oh, that's you.
Yes.
Right.
Which is still in a holding pattern because the Lodge
Okay.
controversy has
Right.
not yet been resolved, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, so that will continue to be before us. Okay, next, comprehensive plan implementation. This is where we go to Ms. Stansel.
No, not yet.
Not
So, not yet. So we're gonna go in order. Environment Objective 6 is the first one
Could-
that,
Sorry. Just because it was on here and whether we do anything with it or not is up to the P and Z. Appointments of Montreat Sign Ordinance Subcommittee.
yes. Oh my gosh, I'm
Did we-
sorry.
Whether we
Yes.
do it or not, we just discussed possibility of doing it in our last Sign Ordinance
Yes,
Committee.
you're completely right. Yeah. Do you guys want to appoint an additional person to the sign subcommittee?
We have four now, the four of us right here, right? So
No.
I don't, it was just mentioned at our last committee when we only had two of
Yeah.
us here. Maybe we've had another person give us more likelihood to have a quorum, but I don't think it changes. We still have to have, it's a question whether we have 3 or 5 or 3 or 4. It does increase the odds, but I don't know that it's necessary.
That's why we added Sally, right? So I think it's taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay,
When we talked about,
yes.
we talked about the possibility of adding Daniel, who happened to be at that meeting. He was
Right.
just there, but I'm not pushing it or recommending it.
Kayla, next.
Sorry, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Apparently I don't know why
Sorry
we're
for that.
appointing people.
Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, I know you're good. Sorry, I don't know. Blinking at me? Let me get a battery.
Where did you
Ours is blinking also, for what it's worth.
So you'll have to share. Nobody else get it back.
You guys have one working one, and I'll just.
And this is still working, is it not? Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I want to talk about comprehensive plan implementation. So as you guys will remember from our January meeting, the plan of attack, so to speak, for the comprehensive plan was to focus on the high priority short-term objectives under each vision statement, and then have interested committee members, our so-called comprehensive plan implementation captains, pursue those objectives with me. So right now, we have 4 to talk about today that are kind of the main focus. I'm updating this tracker after each of the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. And this is what we provide to Board of Commissioners so that they know what we're working on. Any questions on kind of the overall process? No? Yes? Overall process.
The only question I had is I thought at one of the meetings you had said you didn't want to overwhelm us. We're going to do like 1 per meeting, and now you're
Well,
doing 4.
No. I'm just, we're just updating.
Okay.
We're doing updates on them. We're not doing like a full, we're not going to do like what we did with Julie's. I figured we'd just update on what's going on, similar to the subcommittees. And if there is a presentation or something, I'll schedule that so that we're not overwhelmed by this. There's no presentation today.
Except
So-
for Development Objective 5, we were going to act one today.
Well,
Because
let's get there when we get there. Okay. So Environment Objective 6, I'll give the update for Bill Tucker since he's not here. Environment Objective 6 is about exploring conservation easements as an avenue for land protection. Bill and I met to discuss how we thought the best way to proceed with this objective would be. And what we talked about is really information gathering. Gathering information about what conservation easements exist in the town, doing a little bit of mapping, also figuring out what are the local groups that are working on conservation easements in Montreat and also in the larger county. So right now we're really just in an information gathering phase, and Bill and I have talked about possibly having something for the July meeting. Maybe a little presentation, maybe just a memo. We're not really sure what that's going to look like yet, but this one's in development, and really what we're looking at is just information gathering right now. Environment Objective 12. So this is Sally's. Do you want to talk about this one, Sally, or do you want to? Okay. This one's a lot. Sally and I reviewed the hazard mitigation plan. And just to talk a little bit about hazard mitigation plans. So Montreat's hazard mitigation goals and strategies are underneath the Buncombe and Madison County Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. That's a really common way that hazard mitigation planning is done in North Carolina, normally on a county level. So we're part of a larger plan. There are specific goals and recommendations for the town. What Sally and I did is we went through each of those recommendations and kind of figured out where the town was with those recommendations. Some of those, we weren't really sure what they meant. And so I'm happy. I know this is kind of small to see, but this is as big as I can print. So I'm happy to go through them if you guys want. But what Sally and I are looking for today is a motion from the full commission to either take no action or take the suggested action for each of these action items. Because right now, we've kind of gotten to the place where we know where we'd like to go with this, but we don't want to take any action until we've got the okay of the full commission. So,
Would that action be based on this chart?
yeah,
right
it's
here?
based on kind of where we landed on each of them. So some of them are a request to the Board of Commissioners for additional information because we just didn't really understand what this was referring to. Some of it is work that I need to do on the back end. And then some of it is gathering public resources. So there are some specific actions that could be taken, and so that's what we wanted to come to the full commission to ask about.
I'm totally confused. I mean, what are you asking us to do?
Okay, so in the hazard mitigation plan, there are a series of recommendations for the town of Montreat, very similar to the comprehensive plan. And so what Sally and I did was we went through each of the actions, figured out where the town was with that action, had it been completed, had it not been completed, was more information needed. And before Sally and I take additional action on these items, we wanted to go through it with the full commission and kind of get y'all's okay to proceed. So I can go through each of them, and then if you guys want to discuss them and maybe vote on them one by one, maybe that would be easier.
Do we have copies of that?
You do, it's in your packets.
I was not able to print it out, so I don't have a printed copy. You don't have any extra printed copies? do you?
It's in very fine print.
It's very small.
I'm struggling
yeah.
to see it
Mine
myself.
wouldn't even print.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So I can just read them if you want, and then do the suggested action. Does that make sense?
And Caleb, before you go through that, would you confirm there are things that the town is already doing on this?
Yeah. Some of it requires no action because it's just ongoing.
Right.
Some of it we need clarification for.
Mhm.
Some of it are things that, the zoning administrator can do, and some of it is public information gathering.
Okay.
And so,
And may I ask a quick question? As we're looking at this, is this for our committee alone, or is this for the entire? Is this just planning and zoning specific, or is this development and everything else that falls under a much broader umbrella?
what do you mean?
Okay.
Is
In this
what?
last one here, vision statement for environment, another one we're going to be looking at, comprehensive plan that Montreat has. Basically, there were certain ones that were assigned to us specifically, and I guess that's where I was going.
Yeah, so
so-
it's going to start with planning and zoning. Some of these actions are not actions that planning and zoning will take. Some of these are done by myself. Some of these are done by the town manager. Some of them are just really kind of at the county level. So it depends, but we need a place to start this review, and it starts with planning and zoning.
So my understanding is we were assigned this to review it. That's what's happening, and you're needing our commission to say, yes, go ahead
Yeah.
with these implementation procedures that you have on this chart here.
Yes.
So really, are you just needing us to say, yes, go ahead?
Yes,
or-
ask questions, and if you guys have other suggestions, we'd definitely
Okay.
welcome them.
Okay, and in the same way we went into the a comprehensive plan, are
Right.
there things, there are a lot of them that are listed here as high, 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 high. Are we going to look at that and say, well,
No, we're
Oh.
just going to go through the whole thing.
okay,
There's not a lot on here, and there's not a lot that needs action.
Right.
So Sally and I are going to work on all of them.
okay.
So what I'd like to do is go through them one by one, and if you guys have questions or have suggestions of how potentially this could be implemented, if it differs from what Sally and I have discussed, that would be great. And then at the end, if you guys, we can either go one by one, or if you guys just want to give us a, okay, we agree with what you guys are proposing, that'll work too.
Now, you're looking at the document entitled 40424 Hazardous Mitigation Plan Tracker?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll read the action and then the implementation.
Mhm.
All right, so P1, so this is prevention, hazard prevention. Appoint a representative to the Hazard Mitigation Plan Evaluation and Revision Committee, continue to meet as needed. I spoke with the county. This is a committee that is hosted by the county, and they have not met in a long time. They're the ones that convene that committee. There's no action needed from the town at this time on that item, but I did update the contact information because it was previously the town manager, Alex Carmichael. So now I've updated that contact information to Savannah, so we don't need an action on that. P2, Prevention 2, review resources discussing hazard mitigation concepts, develop a checklist in our ordinance and building inspections department to ensure, review resources discussing hazard mitigation concepts. Sally and I weren't really sure what that meant. We don't know what resources that's referring to. So we were going to ask if, what we'd like to do is ask the Board of Commissioners for clarification on how they'd like to see that objective pursued.
And one question too, when we're talking hazard, that's a very broad spectrum. Are we talking about, potential forest fires? Are we talking
Everything.
about contamination of things or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so this plan was done, I don't remember the year, but it was evaluated the town's vulnerability against certain hazards, and these are the actions it came up with.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'd like to ask the Board of Commissioners for clarification on that, because we just don't really understand what that was meaning. Prevention 4, develop a checklist in zoning and building inspections to ensure consistency in zoning enforcement and to prevent omissions in the evaluation of projects. I don't have anything right now that's written down. It's kind of just in my head, but I do think this is a good action item that I can do, following okay from you guys to do that. Develop a checklist that both the building inspector and I can use to make sure we're being consistent.
Could I recommend that maybe as we go through these, that if we have questions for that specific action, that we talk about it
Yeah.
right then? And
Yes.
does that make sense? So we
Yes.
can kind of, rather than making it broad at the end.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, that sounds good. Anything so far that anyone has questions on, clarification on? Okay. P6, report results of inspection/enforcement measures to the project impact coordinator/emergency planner on a semi-annual basis. I reached out to the county for this. I have the contact information for the staff member who currently serves in this position. I asked if any action was needed by the town at this time, and she told me no. She said, continue doing what you guys are doing now in terms of really the only thing under this action item that we track is things to do with floodplain management. We don't really have anything else that we track and that would be under this item. And so basically there's no action needed at this time. Just continue doing what we're doing.
What are the comments on the right-hand side? What are those referring to? Are you updating? Will those be updated based on today, or what are those trying to do?
So 2021 status, this was in the plan. These 2021 status things were in the plan. So what's under implementation is what Sally and I talked about today. So this is a tracker, yeah. All the way on the right.
Just for clarity, and maybe Sally, you can help on this too, is there an actual document that is a hazard
Yeah.
mitigation plan?
Yep.
Where would we find that document?
You can Google Buncombe and Madison County Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan, or it's also linked directly in the digital copy of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much.
There's a
Okay.
hyperlink in there that you can look at.
Thank you.
P8, continue to update the Town of Montreat Emergency Response Ordinance on an annual basis. This is something that the town manager handles, and Savannah has it on her list. So this is above planning staff. Purchase a complete GPS setup and provide training on said setup. We have no idea what that means, and so I've handed that over to Savannah as well. All right, next section is property protection. So P1 is update the zoning ordinance to reflect mitigation planning and safety factors. We're not really sure what that means either. You know, I'm not really sure. That could mean many different things. And so it's just not really clear what exactly it is being asked there. So that was one of the items that we wanted clarification from the Board of Commissioners on. Investigate participation in the NFIP community rating system. I know that this says that I will work on gathering information following okay from PZC, but at this point, I would ask for the Board of Commissioners to direct staff to do that. I don't think that the town currently has capacity or a need to be a part of the CRS, but that's something that I think the Board of Commissioners should comment on, whether that's something that they still want to pursue, because it is a pretty heavy ask. So that one, I would say, ask Board of Commissioners for direction on. The next one is PP7, develop a database that identifies each property that has received damage due to hazards identified within this mitigation plan. The only database that we are legally required to track is floodplain damage. And we already do that, and I'm working on updating those records now. Public education and awareness activities, PEA1, educate contractors, developers, and designers on code changes and new development issues. We're not really sure what this meant either, so we'd ask Board of Commissioners for clarification. PEA2, provide new home builders with information on quality redevelopment and safe housing development. Same here, that can mean many different things. We're not really sure what the intent was, so we'd ask for clarification. PEA3, manually disperse and have a website posting which provides information about relevant emergency response and preparedness actions the public can take. A lot of the federal government, so FEMA, state government, has a lot of public awareness education materials that we could easily distribute through the town's existing website. So that was something that Sally and I talked about doing, following an okay from y'all. And then the last one, PEA4, manually disperse and have a website posting which provides information on the hazard mitigation plan and actions the public can take. So similar to the one above, using the town's existing website to provide that information is something Sally and I talked about to accomplish that.
Thank you, Kayla.
So what are you all thinking about, like links on the website or a page or?
Something like that, I think, yeah.
Where it would automatically update when things change to make it as low burden as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of link. So I think really in some, a lot of it is we need direction from the Board of Commissioners as to how they'd like to see these pursued, because they're so broad. And then the other part of it is public information and gathering those materials together and having them in a space that people can find them.
And Kayla, so thank you all for going through this, because I would imagine that I wouldn't have thought it would be this kind of detailed if I had volunteered for it. So I'm glad that Sally did it. Is there a scenario where there is an annual review of this or a biannual review? Like, we're doing this because the comp plan was refreshed. Well, I wouldn't want this to go another 10 years.
And the plan is updated there's a duration within which the plan legally has to be updated, and that's typically initiated at the county level. So that is coming up within the next couple of years, I believe.
It shows something on there about 2025.
I think that might be when it's happening, but I'm not sure. Yeah, these 2025. Then it's 2025 where it'll get updated.
Yeah, which kind of implies there's an annual review, but doesn't feel like there actually has been one by Buncombe County. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a legal requirement for the duration, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, also, I think Julie brings up a good point, is some of these things were done 3-4 years ago. If it's going to be updated within the next couple of years, some of these things that we're unclear about, do we want to ask for direction, I guess, would be the question that I think is an interesting one that we didn't talk about.
Well, I mean, I think we are trying to be very front-footed as a commission to take a look at these. So I definitely would want something to go to the Board of Commissioners, noting that we've done that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'll be tracked on here. And I think that there are specific actions that Sally and I can work on, like the public information.
Sure.
That's a pretty low bearing fruit and wouldn't go away in a future plan. Same with making an internal checklist and continuing to track to meet our requirements for our various development regulations. But then there is this other piece of asking for direction on a plan that's potentially going to be updated soon. So.
I'm wondering, because I understand time is limited, for you, you're spread in many ways, and probably for you too, Sally. So I would like to go back to PP5 and say, yes, the Board of Commissioners, if they could direct the staff to help with that. And the last two, PEA3 and PEA4, yes, add, finding out what do we need to do in the short term that might make our community safer. We don't need to reinvent the wheel if there are things out there that we can just add to our town website that might be helpful to our community. Now, is that appropriate, Kayla, to make?
Yeah, so I mean, do you guys agree with the path forward that
Yes.
Sally and I have worked on? Or do you guys have,
I do.
other
I
than,
do.
yeah, what do you guys think?
I think making the recommendation to go to the Board of Commissioners and ask for clarification while noting that it's going to be updated in 2025 and pursuing those additional activities that you think you have the capacity to do and you think you have the capacity to do. I think that, and that's where you were headed, Liz?
Yes, I agree. Yes.
I have a question. Where does the disposal of hazardous material in Montreat fall? Would it fall under this?
I have absolutely no idea.
Because I think that's a concern. I've had a concern since I've been here, and that's how and where to dispose of hazardous material. Now, we can take them to Buncombe County dump, but I can assure you that the majority of the property owners do not drive to Buncombe County dump to dispose of paints or anything else. So I think that needs to be.
So we're only focusing on what's already in the plan.
Yeah, I realize that, but my question was, where does this actually fall?
I think that's a public works issue. I mean, we can certainly, when we talk about PEA 3 and 4, where we talk about how to properly disposing of waste materials, we
And I
can.
think we need to be realistic in what we put down, because we can put down, they need to go to the dump. I can assure you they end up in the trash when they're picked up at the street on Monday morning.
I think also, I mean, when it comes to updating this plan, that should be something that's shared with, the people who are updating it, whatever that entity is. I think for purposes of implementing this plan, we can certainly include materials on how to properly dispose of waste. And I think any sort of implementation and enforcement of that is the responsibility of Public Works, town manager, not planning and zoning.
Kayla, would it be appropriate, picking up on that, to say that we request the town council to investigate how hazardous materials are being disposed of and what plan exists for it?
I would think that is outside the scope of this, because we are talking about implementing this plan, and there's nothing on this plan that speaks specifically to hazardous materials. I think if that is a concern of the town, that is an independent inquiry that needs to be brought to, I would start with the town manager, but that's outside the scope of this.
Okay.
But since it's been brought up, I mean, there probably is some printed information
Yeah.
somewhere that could be linked to our town website for anyone who's curious about how do I get rid of thus and such. They could go to the website and get that
I
information.
think we need to be proactive, though. I think the town needs to be proactive rather than putting that burden on the town.
But
Well, put it in a newsletter or something.
Yeah, I
you
mean, I
know,
think-
Spring cleaning.
Well, I think the town needs to say, okay, on this Saturday, we'll have a truck down at the gate for all, yeah, and we'll collect it and we'll dispose of it. Because people are not going to be proactive on their own and drive to Buncombe County, which is actually west of Asheville, to dispose of that, if they got 2 or 3 cans of paint.
so within the scope, this is outside of the scope
Right.
of planning and
I
zoning.
realize that.
Right, so I hear you guys.
Mhm.
I want to keep us focused on what we're doing in this commission and committee.
What-
If there is a concern about waste dumping, I would bring it up with Savannah and have that be a part of maybe a future newsletter, maybe a discussion at Board of Commissioners. And when it comes time to update this plan, that should be something that the community speaks to ask for specific action.
Can't we do a separate suggestion to the town council and the town administrator that appropriate investigation of what the procedures are now would be an appropriate thing to be considered by the,
I mean, I don't really know if that's something that needs to come from Planning and Zoning Commission.
we can pass anything we want.
I mean, you guys can. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to keep us focused on this, and I hear you. It is related to hazard mitigation, waste disposal, but it's outside of this specific environment objective. So if you guys want to send some requests to the commissioners, you can. It's just kind of outside the realm of what we're talking about today.
So John, if you would like to bring that up under new business, the chair will.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so can Sally and I get some sort of motion to pursue the implementation actions proposed on this tracker?
I would like to move that Kayla and Sally, help me word that again, pursue the implementation of the hazard mitigation plan tracker
As proposed.
as proposed.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Kayla. This is very.
Thank you, Kayla.
the next one is Development Objective 5, which has to do with short-term rentals. Bill, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I sent to each of y'all an email that said what I had done about this, which basically was to meet, first of all, with Tom Widmer and Mason Blake and Savannah to discuss it. Then I was tasked with talking with the School of Government. I talked to 2 people there as set forth in my email, and then came back, and yesterday, whenever it was, we met earlier this week, wasn't yesterday, maybe it was Tuesday, Tom and Savannah and Mason agreed that there was no, it can't be just revenue generating, and in Tom's words, it was a revenue generating issue. So they indicated that they had no desire to proceed with it, and I'll report that to y'all. So that may be enough to to resolve this. I guess for the record, maybe I ought to read this email for the public so that it gets in the record. It's pretty short. Okay, following up on short-term rentals, I spoke to Chris McLaughlin at the North Carolina School of Government last week about the inability of towns to pass a short-term rental fee limited to short-term rentals. Let me just pause here. That's in the statute that you can't do that. He had written one of the articles we read. He was helpful, but suggested I call Adam Lovelady at the School of Government because Adam is much more involved in the subject and would be more helpful to us. I called Adam last Friday and he returned my call Tuesday. We had a very good conversation and he invited me to call back if we had more questions. Adam indicated that the regulation of short-term rentals standing alone is prohibited under North Carolina law, CGS section 1601D-1207, which we have discussed in our committees. Note particularly subsection C of that statute. And I think I brought the statute, but maybe I didn't. Adam was positive about our group's question as to whether the town could adopt a zoning category of, quote, short-term rentals and limit that to certain zoning districts such as R1, R2, and R3. In other words, we could create a new zoning category of short-term rentals and say that these could be in zoning areas 1, 2, and 3.
Is your mic working, Bill?
Is it working?
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Is it? Okay, sorry. Let's see. There could also be a reasonable zoning application fee or the like if it is applicable to all zoning permit applications, not just to short-term rental rezoning applications, which is what they wanted to do. There could be no fee if it were for revenue-generating purposes only, but rather must be limited in amount and related to the approximate costs of evaluating and adopting the usual zoning applications. He said that an annual recurring fee would probably not be permissible. He also indicated that there probably could not be an annual, quote, inspection fee, unquote, except possibly in the case of a particular site that violates the code on a regular or repetitive manner as part of legitimate inspections made to determine whether the violations occurred and or continued. That's essentially it. So that group decided that they had wanted to do it for revenue generating, that they didn't want to impose they didn't have to go through they weren't going to get any revenue if it was just going to cover the cost of the application. So they just felt that they weren't going to proceed with it. And I think that could cover us and we could be done with this part of, if y'all concur, unless y'all want to go further.
And I will say that I do a lot of work in short-term rental regulation as part of my job at Land to Sky. And so, we do watch what's happening in the legislature and what other communities are doing. And, certainly if anything were to come up, some opportunity in the regulations that would be appropriate for Montreat, it's something that I could let you guys know about. But Bill is, spot on. You can regulate short-term rentals like any other use, but you can't do anything to them you wouldn't do to another use.
I'm just, can I?
That has resolved this particular point. Okay.
Just a quick curiosity question. You made the statement that Mr. Lovelady, Adam Lovelady, said that regulation of short-term rentals standing alone is prohibited.
Yes, it's in the statute.
But does that mean so I'm just curious as to why I'm reading all these articles in the newspaper about all the controversy over in Asheville and Buncombe County. They seem to be trying to regulate. But
you can regulate them as you would another use. You can impose dimensional standards, things like setbacks, parking requirements, lighting, landscape buffers, a definition. You can require a zoning permit, but you can't say, here's my short-term rental regulation, and it's subject to all this other stuff. And then here's my zoning. That's what it's saying.
So what are they
Just
trying
let
to
me
do?
read the statute to you, because what it says is 160D-1207, subsection C. In no event may a local government do any of the following. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 is levy a special fee or tax on residential rental property that is not also levied against other commercial and residential properties unless expressly authorized by general law, that would be by the legislature. or applicable only to an individual rental unit property.
But again, it's curiosity more than anything else, but what I'm reading in the paper, it sounds like, is it Buncombe County that's having all these hearings and big crowds showing up and the realtors organized against it and so on and so forth? But aren't they trying to regulate them or ban them in certain areas or something like?
Yeah.
So they are regulating, right?
You can regulate them,
Okay.
but you can't say, here's my special short-term rental ordinance. They're subject to all of this stuff that single-family dwellings, bed and breakfasts, similar uses are not subject to. So when it says standalone, that's what it means. So you can regulate them potentially.
So could Montreat ban short-term rentals? Just curiosity.
If that is what you guys wanted to do,
I
you
mean,
could.
could they do that?
But you could, but it would you'd have to be able to enforce it, number one. How, you would have to ask that question, do you have enough staff to do it? Is it even feasible?
Yeah, I understand all that.
Is there a purpose? If there was a legitimate purpose of regulating short-term rentals and it was tied to what is in the state statute that you can impose onto different uses, dimensional regulations, use separation, things like that, then sure, you could.
Dan, what
Yeah.
this goes on to say, in no event may a local government do any of the following. One, adopt or enforce any owner or manager of rental property to obtain any permit or permission under parts of this chapter from the local government to lease or rent residential real property or register rental property with the local government, except for those individual properties that have more than 4 verified violations in a rolling 12-month period, blah, blah, blah.
So that's just dealing with fees again, though.
You can like require a zoning permit. If it's a special use, you can require a special use permit. But you're not saying you have to do an annual short-term rental permit,
But just going back to Bill's statement, I guess, where Adam said that regulating short-term rentals is prohibited, that's technically a little too broad, I guess.
I mean, yeah, you can,
You can regulate them.
yeah.
You could outlaw them. You could say they can only be done.
You can, but it's a really hot topic right now.
I get that. I
And
get that.
I think
I'm just trying to understand the
you can,
legalities here.
you
Yeah.
can. And I can,
Regulating them standing alone is prohibited under North Carolina
Yeah.
law.
yeah, so you can like you would another use.
So you could say they can only be done in R3
Sure.
only, or whatever.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk more about it with you, Dan,
That's
if
helpful.
you want.
Okay, would y'all like it to go any further, or does this conclude that part of it for us? Okay, I'm seeing,
Yeah, I think that concludes. Thank you
Uh,
for all that.
okay. And if anybody wants to read any of the cases, Dan, here they are.
The School of Government has some really great articles on short-term rental regulation if anybody is interested in learning more.
They're all under Coates Canada.
Okay, do you guys want to go on to the next one?
So that was, yes.
Okay. Transportation Objective 1, I just want to say something really quick, and then I'm going to have Sally take this one over. So I know there was a little bit of confusion of why this was being brought to Planning and Zoning Commission during this meeting. And if y'all will remember at our last meeting in January, Sally had brought up her interest in doing some sort of traffic calming something, particularly on Assembly Drive, and that we would bring something back to this meeting. So what Sally and I talked about was requesting, putting forth a memo, requesting that the Board of Commissioners allocate funding in their upcoming fiscal year to either do some sort of traffic study, or implement some very specific measures that Sally gathered from her own investigation, talking to town members, talking to community members about this issue. So what's before you today is a draft memo to the Board of Commissioners requesting, with a very specific request. So I know in the memo, I wrote it, just so you guys know, with Sally's help. I know in the first sentence, in the last sentence on the first page, it maybe implies an amendment to the comprehensive plan. That was not the intent of that sentence. Merely just what that sentence was intending to do was merely indicate that there was a desire from the Planning and Zoning Commission to handle this, to address this objective in the next fiscal year. That's all that meant. So Sally, do you want to talk more about why you wanted to pursue this and then some of the work that you did?
Well, it's always been a concern to all of us, the traffic on Assembly, and my neighbors talk a good bit about it. And so, their suggestions were, I approached them and said, the Planning and Zoning Board wants to go to the Board of Commissioners and ask that they bump up the traffic study and make it a higher priority than what it is now. And of course, they were on board with that. And some of their suggestions were things that the town could do, like repainting lines that have gotten, diminished by traffic. And some even suggested doing speed bumps, which I've heard other people have a real problem with. The speed bumps were not necessarily on Assembly, however. In fact, they specifically said Kanawha. But anyway, so what Kayla wrote was this letter that we are here asking P&Z today to approve to go to town council to ask them to make a traffic study a higher priority than it is at this point.
Take one of the two actions that Sally and I outlined on pages 2 and 3.
Thank you. Thanks, Kayla, so much.
Could I ask a question about A on page 2? It
Yep.
says that the town commit to providing 5% of total cost or $5,000, whichever is less. What happens if it costs more than that?
Well, that I think is where we get into the first sentence, utilizing grant funding and partnerships with local entities.
Right, so that they should it then say that they recommend that the town commit that and seek additional funding through other local entities, something like that? Because that's not in your recommendation.
If you got, yeah, if it needs to be rewritten to reflect that, that's fine. But what Sally and I were getting at is that like the maximum amount that the town would spend on this would be $5,000. And that would be it. Anything else would have to come from another source. So that's what we were getting at.
And that's just for the study. Okay. Because I think some of this,
5,000 or 5%, whichever is less.
yeah, my point being, obviously, that's the study. The recommendations and changes could obviously run a lot more.
Yes.
And you do have in there putting speed bumps in.
Yeah, so Sally, like she said, had identified some specific actions that could be taken. We don't know how much those would cost, but I'm sure that some of our staff members could give good estimates on what some of these things would cost. So, those are the two actions that we put together.
What is your will with this, Dan?
Well, I really have some mixed emotions about this. I support the idea of making the town as safe as possible. In fact, I have real concerns about traffic too. It's one of the reasons I have concerns about the college's proposed plans and their long-term master plan to build more dorms and have more students and more cars and more traffic. So, yeah, especially location. But I have serious concerns about the whole town, the traffic issues. And that's just one of the issues involved in that aspect. But anyway, so I'm attuned to that. I'm sensitive to it. I'm with you. I get it, and I think it's a good idea to always be aware of the traffic and the issues that we have with this, especially with one road coming in and out, as we all know. And I truly think Montrose is unique in that regard as an incorporated town. That having been said, I have a little heartburn and hesitancy and reservation about the Planning and Zoning Commission getting involved in, I don't know, call it micromanaging or whatever. I think the community has expressed concerns. I know Sally has probably been before town council and as have other people and expressed this. And I guess at some point we just got to trust the town council to do what's right and best for the safety of the town. I think they're aware of it. I think they've considered it. I'm not sure why they turned what Jane indicated is they thought the cost was a little too much. And I guess what you're asking us to suggest to them is maybe that's not too much for the safety of the town, that they should look at it. But especially to get down to telling them about speed bumps and painting lines and all that, I don't know, I think of planning and zoning having certain responsibilities, and we've got a lot of them, and we're just spent an hour and a half talking about a lot of stuff that we do. And I'm just not sure this is in our bailiwick. It's appropriate for us to be telling the town council how to do
I mean,
the nitty-gritty work of the town. I have a lot of, and if we are going to do something, I do have some concerns about the wording. I think there's some factual inaccuracies in here, and I think it could be worded better. But it just, at the end of the day, I'm kind of still on the fence, but I think I do have some hesitancy and reservation about the whole idea, but I might be convinced otherwise.
So you guys can make this suggestion. At the end of the day, Board of Commissioners is going to decide one way or another. If they feel that this should be a higher priority, if this should be dealt with in the next fiscal year, or if this is something that this formal of a request can be moved a little bit. So no, I mean, I think under this objective, I mean, I think you guys making this request is reasonable. It's just whether you all agree that this request needs to be made at this time, or if the request needs to be made at all. Or if, like Dan said, you know, we trust that the Board of Commissioners is kind of working on this internally and that they're aware of the issue. So I think, I mean, if providing hard numbers if providing hard numbers is the holdup, we can certainly, you know, take that out, talk about some different language. But I think it's helpful to provide something concrete that has these concrete suggestions and the concrete cost figure, rather than something that's nebulous. But I mean, this is appropriate for you guys to suggest.
I hear you, Dan, and I understand that, but I think I walk and jog in Montreat a lot, and we have young neighbors with young children that play, and you know, we don't have sidewalks. And I think also, as Dan mentioned, some upcoming plans with the different entities in our community, the MRA and the college. I think communication is key. Whether the communication is perfect or not, it brings the subject up. And I think at least expressing that there's a concern, and I love, Sally, that you talked with your neighbors. I have a heart, you know, we represent our community. And so this is a concern, especially for people that live on Assembly Drive or that are pushing strollers and walking dogs or riding bicycles. And we're getting ready to enter our busiest season in the summer. So I think it's not going to be perfect, you know, numbers and research and all that. And I do hear you, Dan, about the concern, but I do believe that the communication is important. So in whatever way that we could help appropriately with that, I experience it myself personally, and have almost been hit by vehicles. So, you know, we want to do what we can that's appropriate. So I would be supportive of bringing it to the attention of the town council.
Yeah, I have a suggested rewrite of A that I can just read. The town recommends the town pursue a traffic study with a focus on Assembly Drive, utilizing grant funding and partnerships with local entities. Based on the previous estimate for a traffic study for Assembly Drive, the commission recommends that the town consider providing up to $5,000 of the traffic study cost toward the funding of the study, with the rest to be provided by other sources such as grants.
I will move that we adopt this memorandum to the Town of Montreat Board of Commissioners from Kayla, the zoning administrator, and with the help of Sally. No, am I doing it?
No, this is, you guys are the ones who would be putting this forward.
Oh, okay.
It's as drafted by them, but it would be our.
Okay, drafted
Yeah.
by Kayla.
Yeah, and Sally.
Okay, and Sally, thank
Is
you for that
is there a
correction.
second to that?
Second.
So the motion is on the floor. Are there any, do you want to move your amendment?
Yes,
And
I,
get that on too?
yep, I move to amend the memo as follows. I'm going to start on page 1. At the very bottom, strike the words in the second to last sentence, in the last sentence, strike the words elevated to a high priority and. So it simply reads that the commission recommends that this objective be pursued during the upcoming fiscal year. And then on the next page, along similar lines, in the paragraph that starts with, based on this information, I would strike the words elevate transportation objective 1 to become a high priority and.
Could you repeat that, please?
Sure, yeah, it's,
I didn't
it's
find where you were.
on page 2, or you want me to go back to page 1?
Just tell me where on page 2, please.
It's at the middle, and it's the paragraph that starts with based on this information.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the point would be to just avoid the discussion about
Mm-hmm.
high priority versus other.
Would you read that again, just so that my
Sure.
slow brain can?
Yep. So the paragraph in the middle of page 2 that starts with based on this information, comma, it continues, the commission recommends that the Board of Commissioners, and I would strike the next language, strike, elevate transportation objective 1 to become a high priority and. I would strike that so that it reads, recommends that the Board of Commissioners pursue action related to this objective during the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay, is there a second to that proposed amendment?
I will second.
Is there, well, let's see, let's just leave that for the minute. Are there any other proposals? I would instead, in that same paragraph, instead of say recommend, I think it's a little bit less fulsome if we said suggest rather than recommend. So
Yep.
suggest that, okay. Okay, and now Dan,
You know,
yeah,
if we're wordsmithing this document, I probably would have a number of suggestions, but just broadly, I'm not sure what it's, that second full paragraph on page 2. It's giving a little background, but it's really anecdotal. It's talking about one resident said this, chief police said that. I don't know what it adds to the process of. Do we need all that background information anyway? Just, we're just getting to what we're recommending considered. Yes, I would move to strike that full paragraph.
is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, so that's an amendment to the amendment, so let's vote on that. All in favor of that particular amendment or deletion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, so that paragraph would come out. Okay. Continue, Dan, if you will.
That's all I have for now.
Okay. So,
Bill?
yes,
Underneath A on page 2, third line, the commission recommends that the town consider, did we change that?
I think that was all changed in in
Okay.
Julie's
Yeah,
information.
and I can read it again
Okay.
if that would be helpful.
Yep.
And I'll read it as it would be amended. The town pursue a traffic study with a focus on Assembly Drive, utilizing grant funding and partnerships with local entities, period. Based on the previous estimate for a traffic study for Assembly Drive, the commission recommends that the town consider providing up to $5,000 toward the funding of this study. I'm sorry, hang on. That the town consider providing up to $5,000 of the traffic study cost, which means we don't need.
Okay, and is that where we changed recommend to suggest? Or does that appear elsewhere?
I said consider providing, but I would be fine. Yeah, yes, because it also needs to be suggest there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, and hang on, I'm gonna read it silently and make sure I don't have.
Instead of recommends.
Yeah, exactly, so that would suggest, where's the based upon?
We need to base.
Oh,
on
I
previous
see.
estimate of traffic study for Assembly
Yeah.
Drive. Why not just say,
Okay,
jump right into.
yeah, let's really just make it short.
Do you want to read from that third paragraph?
The commission suggests that the town consider providing up to $5,000 toward, and it's fine if it's, I've got two options on here. We could keep towards,
I'm sorry. The commission suggests that the Board of Commissioners pursue action related to this objective during the upcoming fiscal year.
No, you're going back up. She started.
oh, you're up there.
Going back up to there.
I'm sorry, based on this information, the commission suggests,
Are we keeping based on this information or taking that out?
Yeah, because we deleted.
Out because we deleted that
I
paragraph.
see, yep,
The commission suggests that the Board of Commissioners pursue action related to this objective during the upcoming fiscal year. Should the Board of Commissioners agree to pursue this objective, the commission suggests either. That's what we've got.
that is, I was actually going to recommend that we only suggest A,
I agree with that.
rather than B, and I definitely anticipate these are valid suggestions.
Yeah.
I feel like it ends up getting into more detail than anybody's going to want to deal with right now, until the traffic study is done, frankly.
So that would mean that recommends, either would come out, A would
Yep.
come out, recommends that the town pursue a traffic study, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I'm getting ready to do that, yep. Okay, so you get that little change there, because that would come out.
Yep.
Okay. So,
So really, we're just bringing to the forefront that they look at this.
yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, now I wonder if we're recommending or suggesting. Yeah, I think we can go
That's
back
okay,
to
I'll
recommendation.
withdraw all my
Okay, so,
suggestions.
okay, so
Okay,
we're
so
gonna,
put recommend in.
okay.
Come in, goes back in.
Okay.
The commission recommends, right, so we're gonna drop base. The commission recommends that the Board of Commissioners pursue action related to this objective during the upcoming fiscal year. Should the Board of Commissioners agree to pursue this objective, the commission recommends the town pursue a traffic study with a focus on Assembly Drive, utilizing grant funding and partnerships with local entities. The commission recommends that the town, and here I don't know which way we're going, consider providing up to $5,000 of the traffic study cost, with the rest to be provided by other sources such as grants.
Let's leave it at that, and that would come out, A would come out, and that separate paragraph for that would also go up
Yes.
to the top. So recommends that the town, blah, blah, blah.
Would recommends that they consider providing.
Yeah, that's why don't we just recommend
recommends
it?
that the town provide?
Yep. Yep. Does it need to be commit, Kayla, or can we just say provide? Provide up to $5,000. Was there a reason why commit was in there? Okay. I'm going to read it one more time. The former A. The town pursue a traffic study with a focus on Assembly Drive, utilizing grant funding and partnerships with local entities, period. The commission recommends that the town provide up to $5,000 of the traffic study cost, comma, with the rest to be provided by other sources such as grants.
Do we need that second part because I feel like that's repeating the end of the first?
That's fine. Yep.
The first sentence says the town pursue a traffic study utilizing grant funding and partnerships.
Awesome.
It's already saying you're going to use.
So the commission recommends that the town provide up to $5,000 of the traffic study cost.
Okay,
I'm nitpicking again. I haven't had time to spend my usual time on wordsmithing. We've now got the commission recommends that the Board of Commissioners pursue action related to this objective, and I'm trying to decide what does this objective now relate to? What is the objective stated above? I'm trying to.
I think it's back up to the very first paragraph referring to the town comp plan.
I'm lost now, so could you read now where that stands? The same one that presently starts based on this information?
Yeah, I don't think I've changed anything. I was just asking a question.
Okay,
So I think it's not changing anything Julie just read.
okay.
I'm just wondering where it talks about it related to this objective.
All right, well, are y'all ready to vote on this amendment, these amendments? I'm going to take that as a yes. All in favor of the amendments that have been stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, wait a minute, now I want to see if there are any other amendments, because we got to vote on it as amended. Okay, any other amendments? All in favor of the recommendation as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you all very much. I think that gets you where you.
Can you guys do so there's a suggested motion on your agenda, so do you request, is there a motion to request that the memorandum be placed on the May Board of Commissioners agenda?
Because that's when they vote on the,
Well, that's when we need
You.
to, right, if you want it in the next fiscal year budget, I mean, I know we could do a budget amendment, but I mean, it needs to be before.
Okay. All right, can someone make that, will you state the motion as you want it, and then someone can make it?
To request that the memorandum be placed on the May Board of Commissioners.
Is there a motion to that effect by a member of the commission?
Yes.
Is there a
Here's
second?
why that's needed. Go ahead,
To potentially get it into the budget.
Why what's needed?
Well, I'm just saying we're sending this memorandum to them where we're asking them to take such action. But we're now saying, here's when we like tell them when they should take that action.
No.
Well, it needs to be put on the May, I need direction from you guys to put it on.
But don't they develop their own agenda? Or are we trying to, that's what I'm,
Put stuff on the agenda. That's what it is it's a request from you guys to get it put on the May agenda. Yeah. Because I don't want them to ask me, like, where did this?
All right, so the motion is that the Planning and Zoning Commission
Request.
requests that the memorandum be, that this memorandum be placed on the May Board of Commissioners agenda, and they don't have to do that. That's our motion. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes.
Can I just make sure I have all of the changes? Okay, the first page, last paragraph, striked out, elevated to a high priority and. That was in the last sentence.
Yes.
On page 2, we've striked the second paragraph and then striked option B and rewritten the third paragraph in option A to read, the commission recommends that the Board of Commissioners pursue action related to this objective during the upcoming fiscal year. Should the Board of Commissioners agree to pursue this objective, the commission recommends that the town pursue a traffic study with a focus on Assembly Drive, utilizing grant funding and partnerships with local entities. The commission recommends that the town provide up to $5,000 of the traffic study cost.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we already voted on that. She just
Yeah,
restated.
yeah.
Okay, great, okay. Are y'all through with that? Okay, we are. Is there any other old business? Seeing none, is there any new business?
Yes, I'd like to move that we ask the town manager to develop a proactive plan for the residents of Montreat for the disposal of hazardous material.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just said we asked the town manager, so it would come from planning and zoning. You want me to get to her?
No, 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 I just want to know what's the expectation? Like, do you guys want to just, like, I guess, who do you guys want to do that?
What he's just saying is the town manager
Town manager.
develop
but-
such a plan. Read the motion again.
That we ask the town manager to develop a proposed proactive plan for the residents of Montreat for the disposal of hazardous material.
And I think Kayla's right, and that such be submitted to the town council for consideration. Because just develop, you don't ask her to implement it or anything.
Should it go directly to the town council? Or should it come back to us? If the motion is coming from us.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think about like what's the best way to like, start this conversation. I don't know if maybe one of the commission members wants to kind of bring this to the town manager and then see, I don't know.
I'm wondering, John, that's what I was wondering,
I'm
John.
sorry.
Excuse me.
So she needs to come up with something to present to the town council.
Right, so it would be great if we could have one of the Planning and Zoning Commission members kind of spearhead this.
I'll do it.
Okay.
So, read the motion again.
Well, it's probably changed.
No, I think
ahead.
that's still the motion.
Yeah,
That is the motion.
That's still the motion. It's just, I'm talking like logistics, like
Okay,
how is this
that
actually
is
gonna
my
happen?
motion.
Would you read it again,
That's fine.
please?
That we ask the town manager to develop a proposed proactive plan for the residents of Montreat for the disposal of hazardous material.
Should we say and report same back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, or do you want to leave that out?
We can talk about the logistics after.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get this, let's get the motion done.
Are y'all ready to vote on that motion, or is there a second to that motion?
Oh, I think I seconded.
Okay, Julie seconded.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Yeah, again, I think it's an excellent idea, and I think it's something that should be done. I'd like to know what to do with a few cans of paint I've got in my basement, so I welcome it. My question again is this appropriate for Planning and Zoning Commission to make such a request? I just raised the question, that's all.
I mean, I frankly, just candidly, I would just approach Savannah and talk to her about it. Rather than it coming formally from Planning and Zoning, I mean, that would be my recommendation. You guys can certainly make it a formal request. I think it's in a gray area, but I don't know,
What if we just said that the commission encourages Commissioner Hinkle to meet with the town administrator to discuss
Yeah.
Sure.
proposals for disposal of hazardous materials, something like that? And we'll encourage you to do that. Okay. All right, the motion is withdrawn. So,
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
okay.
So, the point is, we were talking about the hazard mitigation plan, so certainly I understand what you're saying, John. So could it be that, yes, you informally meet with Savannah and maybe come back and kind of tell us what you learned from her? But it doesn't have to be a formal type thing. Would that be all right?
And then if it doesn't
Oh, absolutely. Right. Right. Yeah.
And I would also note, I actually called the town a couple of years ago and asked how to dispose the paint cans. I got instructions on how to make them solid, and then they were picked up at the once every 6 months pickup
Oh.
because they were no longer hazardous waste. So there, it might be helpful just to get better instructions out to the town on how to take advantage of that bulk waste pickup.
That's a great suggestion, but I have a feeling that the majority of the residents
I-
do not open their cans of paint and pour sand in them and let them dry up.
Yep, understood.
So that's why I think it's important that we address this issue, or the town addresses the issue. Well, that's what I've been doing.
Okay, well, on that note, is there any other new business?
Yes. So the legislature has adopted some new development provisions that we will need to write into our code. I have talked with Savannah about the things that are under planning and zoning's jurisdiction. So I guess I want to know, how do y'all want to handle this? We're going to need to do some text amendments. So I don't know if it's meeting through the Montreat to the zoning ordinance.
That's what I would
Committee?
say, that's where it should go. And y'all could prepare suggestions based
Okay.
on that. That would go to your committee, Dan. And he's nodding yes.
Okay, so can we pick a date then for that committee to meet while we're here, rather than trying to schedule separately?
It's just, how extensive is it, do you think it'll be? I mean, is just one or two or three
I don't have,
minor items?
I don't have my updated notes here. I don't think it's not too many. It's not too many, but we can go through them.
Well,
I guess what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, not to suggest that our subcommittee, which has not met, as you know, in a long time because of the controversy that we didn't want to get embroiled in and tangled in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not sure if this would violate that hesitancy. I guess if it's just a few minor technical changes just to make it compliant with the new statutes, that it would just come back to full P and Z in July might be
Why
better.
why don't the chair get with you, Kayla, and you and Savannah, and then we'll take it back to the July meeting.
So we need to, we need, I don't want to wait until July. I really think that, let me look at my notes really quick and see how many actual changes would need to go before. So
Well,
just-
it's going to have to wait till July if it's going to require amendments to the zoning code.
No, I know, but setting the, if we're going to do it through the subcommittee,
Which I'm trying to,
or
I'm
are
trying
we
to
going to
avoid.
do it through the full commission? So just give me 1 second so I can look through my notes, because I don't remember where I sent them.
Is there an option to have a meeting, a special meeting about it, or is that too much?
Well, I mean, if it's gonna go to the full commission, we can talk about that, but if it needs to go to the zoning, just give me 1 second, please.
I'm sorry, but while we've taken a minute, I have to go. But thank you all so much for
Yes, this
attention and,
person is giving a few minutes too, so I need to
yeah,
get to-
exactly. Thank you.
One, two, three. Yeah, there's 4 changes that will need to be made to the zoning ordinance by planning and zoning.
But there's no deadline for getting those accomplished, is there?
I mean, they are adopted.
When does statute take effect? A lot of those statutes not even take effect till August, or in some, I noticed in some of them. Yeah, but when they've already passed these, I think, his question is when did they take effect?
I'd have to check. I don't have the actual statute in front of me. I just have this document. So, I mean, I can look. If you guys want to wait, it's really It's
I
really
would suggest
up
we
to
wait
you.
until our regular meeting and deal with them unless you find out that something has to be adopted on or before a certain date, which I doubt seriously, because I don't think every town and county in the state would be able to. So I think they usually give you plenty of time to do those. But if you find out that something has to be done and on or before June 30th or July 31st or whatever, then we could call a special
Yeah,
meeting to deal
we'd
with
be
it.
happy to
Yeah,
consider.
I'm
that.
just trying to be
Okay.
proactive
Yep.
and plan ahead because, I have very limited time during the week with you guys here, so I really need to have my workflow kind of scheduled, so. Okay, so July, unless there's a pending deadline. Okay. Now, are you guys expecting to see revised language or suggested language, or are we expecting to just go over what the changes are? Language, okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
And Kayla, real quickly, this
Yeah.
document you gave us that already has changes, these are the changes that we would need to go back and make sure that they don't impact.
I mean, I will do it. I will bring you guys exactly what you need. This is just the full copy of all the changes
Okay.
related to development regulations, but there are only certain ones that fall under planning and zoning.
Okay.
So that highlighting and notes that you had, did you insert those into into that document? So those are the ones you were trying to highlight for our. they'll come
Yeah,
across.
and then it looks like I went through it again, and there's only 4 that actually would be under planning and zoning. The rest are other departments in the town, other focuses of the town.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other new business? Our next meeting will be July 18th at 10:30. Is there any public comment? Don't forget to turn on the microphone.
Turn the microphone on.
Great meeting as always, but the hazardous waste that John's brought up has hit me personally because, we all have things around our house that need to be taken care of. And I feel like it would be a good idea for us to get up with Savannah and Drew and Barry, and maybe as a group, because I worry about sometimes, hate to admit this, but I put a glass jar in that had, some type of paste or something. And then you worry about our people who pick up the trash. What if that breaks? What if they get cut? There are lots of hazardous things that are work hazards also. So I'll go with you.
Okay.
Yay, thank you, Jane.
Is there any other public comment? Jane, thank you for
Yeah.
what you do, and thank you for getting all this passed through the council.
Thank you.
Whenever that happens to be.
Yeah, thank you, thank
Okay, is there a
you.
motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Thank y'all. This has been a really good, difficult,
Productive.
and productive meeting. All right.
Yeah, I like what we came up with. I didn't like.
Here's my lunch before giving lunch. Oh, sorry.